What's up, PokerBEASTs? Kato here, and today we are finally playing cards again. It feels great, but first, before we get into it, I'm just going to quickly address my absence. A handful of you probably think I went broke, and I did go broke, but not financially broke. I was mentally broke. As my state reopens up, my boss was asking me to pick up extra shifts, so I was working 6 days a week, and then the next week 6 days a week, and as I continue looking at the schedule, it's another 6 days, and I was physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. And I know that you don't sit down to play cards unless you're 100% feeling it. Well, I wasn't 100% feeling it for the past month and a half. So not only have I not edited videos, made videos, I haven't even played cards, but it's okay. It's okay if you need to take a break. It's okay if you need to step away, if you feel overworked, if you need to refresh your mind and refresh your soul, that's okay. And so that's what I did, but now I'm back at it. I'm back in it. It feels great. So without further ado, let's play some cards. We're doing our standard $300 buy-in today, and the first hand I pick up is Queen Jack offsuit and the hijack. It folds around to me, and I open the action up for $10. I don't want to make this bet too big, but in this later position, it is an open. Only the small blind and the big blind call. We're headed 3 ways to the flop with $30 in the pot, and the dealer puts out Jack 5 Jack. A fantastic flop to start off the day, and when it checks to me, I want to put in a bet. Although it's a very dry board, and I have one of the jacks, I hate checking here because when I start to bet on later streets, if I really want to get a lot of money in the pot, it becomes quite obvious that I was slow playing a jack on the first street, and I'm trying not to go for 3 streets of value. If no one has anything, that's fine, but people just don't believe that someone that hits this board with a jack is going to be betting out. But I bet out $15, and the opponent in the small blind folds, and the opponent in the big blind decides to raise me to $50. This is a very interesting player. There is a flush draw possibility, but with this double jack, he may not want to be pumping it up. He could also have a jack, so I have to tread carefully with the ace jack, king jack, but if he has any other jack, especially in the blinds, he feels like he hit something special. So I'm going to try to get a lot of money out of him, but I do have to be cautious that he's not getting a lot of money out of me. The turn comes the 9 of clubs. It does not complete the flush. Jack 9 does get there, and it's a very playable hand, a hand that he could easily have. I'm a little concerned that there's one more hand that beats me. I'm not too concerned, especially since he's taking so long to bet. He bets $115, and I'm kind of putting him into the draw territory now that he has kind of put this big bet in. He's taking a while. Do I check? Do I bet? And if he's like me, he's going to want to continue putting pressure on the pot. Of course, I'm going to make the call. I think if I really think he's on a draw, I should probably raise all in, but he could also have ace jack, king jack that beats me. Maybe I want to limit the money that I put in the pot. And since I have position and I can let him bluff me on a later street, I just make the call. This is the first hand I've played. I've only brought 1 bullet, and I've been out of the game for a little while. It would suck to lose all my money on the first hand, and so this is probably a small factor as well. The river comes the ace of diamonds. Doesn't really matter to me because if he had the ace jack, he already has me beat. I don't think he has pocket aces, but he could have the ace high flush draw. He's going to slow down here, and I think the reason he slows down is because maybe he hits his ace. He doesn't make his flush. He thinks he has showdown value, so he's going to check it over to me. I got to put some money in the pot. I have $115 left. I kind of want to shove it all in, but I also think that he may not call if he has a 5, a 9. With an ace, he probably would, but his kicker might not be that great. So instead of going for the big bucks, I decide I want to put it in a very enticing bet that he's going to have to call, get some value on the river. I'm starting to think maybe I should have just pushed on the turn, but I decide to size down to a bet of $50, something that is really not going to be easy to fold. There's already $410 in this pot, and so I really want to just drag him in, and drag him in I do. He reluctantly drops in the $50, probably knowing he's beat. That's something we all can work on. We all make calls that we know we're beat. It doesn't matter how much money's in the pot. Sunk cost fallacy. A penny saved, a penny earned. And I'm going to scoop this one. I don't get to see what he has. A great first hand to win. We're back in it, baby. After the first hand, we're already sitting at $530. It feels fantastic. I look at poker as that I'm sitting down at a table full of generals, and the chips are our troops, and we are battling, and it's a battle that I love. The next hand I pick up is ace jack offsuit. We're in middle position, and we have $500 in our stack. There is a straddle on the pot, and when it folds around to me, I'm going to bump it up a little bit this time. I'm sorry for this camera angle. I'm in this terrible seat, But back to the action, I bump it up to $20. The player to my left makes the call. Everyone else folds. We're going heads up to the flop with $50 in the pot, and the dealer puts out 4-5-9. I don't hit anything, but I do have 2 overs and a backdoor wheel draw. I'm going to go ahead and check this one. I don't think that I need to be betting every single hand, and I think this is within my checking range. The opponent, however, disagrees, and he bets $25. For $25, I think I'm going to stick around. I make the call. We're headed heads up to the turn with $100 in the pot, and the dealer puts out the 3 of clubs. Once again, this doesn't hit me, except it does get me 1 card away from a wheel draw. It's not something I expect to hit, but there are some implied odds in there, and I check to my opponent again, and my opponent bets $55. This is when I should probably step away from the hand, but I decide not to. I have just won a bunch of money. I'm excited. I think that I do have some showdown value. My opponent did just bust the previous hand, and so he could be betting with nothing. And so I go ahead and make the call, and the river comes the jack of diamonds. I think I now have the winning hand. Granted, I did get lucky. You can't always rely on luck. You shouldn't rely on luck. But in this case, the jack did come, and I hit one of my outs. I'm going to continue my checking line. I want to conceal the fact that I have a jack, and I think my opponent may bet into me, especially if he's bluffing, and he decides to unfortunately check as well. It's kind of silly that I put all this money in the pot with nothing, and then I finally have something, and I decide to check. My opponent flips over 10-9 offsuit. He flopped top pair and wanted to make some money off me. Luckily, in this game, sometimes the donkeys get paid off. The next hand I pick up is ace-4 diamonds. I'm in middle position, $610 in my stack, and there is a straddle on the pot. I'm going to go ahead and bump it up, open the action to $16. The cutoff calls, the button calls, and everyone else folds. We're headed 3 ways to the flop, $52 in the pot, and the flop comes out 3, 9, 4, 2 clubs. And I'm going to go ahead and lead out $25, bringing the pot to 77. The cutoff decides he wants to play. He makes the call, and the button tosses his hand away. We're headed heads up to the turn with $102 in the pot, and the dealer puts out the 2 of hearts. I did pick up a wheel draw, but I only have a small pair. It's going to be okay if I check in this situation and evaluate with what he does. Luckily, he checks behind. We head to the river. It's the ace of spades. It's a fantastic card, giving us 2 pair. A 5 does beat us, but I don't expect him to have one. And I decide I'm going to bet out $50, bringing the pot to $152. This is the same bet I put on the river 2 hands ago when he reluctantly made the call. He probably is like my opponent the previous hand. He's got a 9. And so he thinks about it for a little while and decides he wants to see what I have. And it looks like he reluctantly flips in another $50. Once again, probably knowing that he's beat. I show him the bad news, and sure enough, I have the winning hand. I'm sorry the cinematography is not so great on this episode. This corner seat just really sucks, and it's kind of driving me nuts, but you gotta do what you gotta do. We are sitting pretty with $721, and finally I get a seat change, and I also pick up King Jack of spades. I'm in the big blind, and the middle position player bumps it up to $12. The cutoff makes the call. I don't want to limp. This is definitely a 3-bet hand, and so that's what I do. I bump it up to $40, putting $37 more in the pot, bringing the pot to $65. The middle position player folds. I later am sitting next to the cutoff, and he tells me that he had King Jack suited when I 3-bet. Sure enough, we have the exact same hand, and I guess that's the power of the 3-bet. But he folds as well. So we're scooping a small pot, and we're moving on to the next one. I get a few hands that I fold away. I test out a different camera angle. I'm not sure which ones you like better. This is actually harder for me to film, but you can see a little bit more of the table. I pick up 10-8 of clubs, and I'm in the low jack, $746 in my stack. There's a straddle on the pot. I'm going to open up the action to $20. I'm not sure if this is a normal open, but I have a feeling that if I was to look at a range chart, that 10-8 suited would in fact be in the open category. The hijack looks at his cards, and he decides he's going to come in as well. He doesn't have a large stack, and everyone else folds. We're going heads up to the flop, $50 in the pot, and the dealer puts out ace, king, 10. I do hit my 10, but with the ace and the king out there, I just basically want to give up right away. And so I checked my opponent. He bets $20. I make the fold, and he flips over one king, and then he flips over his other card. He had pocket kings. He hit his set. Once again, I changed seats. It's kind of the Poker Beast way. And the next thing I look at is ace king offsuit. I'm in the low jack. I have $726 in my stack. There's a straddle in the pot, and there's one limper. I'm going to bump it up $25, and it gets around to the big blind. He says he's just going to ship it all in, $103. Of course, I'm going to make the call here, no problem, for another 78, and we're headed to the flop. The dealer puts out ace 6-3. I think I'm going to win this one for sure. The turn is the 4 of hearts. I have the nut flush draw now, and the river is the 5 of clubs. I go to flip over my hand, and my opponent flips over pocket sixes. He flopped a set, and he's taking me to the cleaners. Nice hand. I fold a few more hands until I look down at the beautiful pocket kings. I'm in the small blind, $623 in my stack, and I'm hoping someone bumps it up. The under the gun player makes the call. The middle position player raises to $17, and the cutoff also calls to $17, and it gets to me, and I'm going to bump it up. I'm 3-betting this all day long, out of position with the premium. I make it $60. The original better folds, and then it gets to the cutoff. Who makes the call? He just rebought for $100. He only has $38 behind. Interesting play to say the least. The dealer puts out the flop. Queen, king, 4. I hit top set. There is a straight and flush draw possibilities. I'm not too worried about this hand since he only has $38 behind. And he keeps checking out a turn. I go ahead and check, and he checks. The turn comes to 7 of hearts, where he checks again out of turn. I'm not sure if he's a new player or he just doesn't know what he's doing. But right when I put in my bet, he puts all in. I make the call. We're going to the river. The 4 of diamonds. He shows 8-7 of clubs. He hit his pair on the turn. And I show him that I have him absolutely dominated, scooping an easy $100. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. I'm a little nervous about how the YouTube algorithm is going to treat me. So if you guys could drop a thumbs up and give my channel a little boost, I would really appreciate it on this specific video. Thank you so much. Look how I catch this card. Boom. That was beautiful. Ace 4 diamonds, another playable hand. I'm in the big blind, and there's a straddle in the pot. It gets to the small blind, and he decides he wants to bump it up to $25. And there's just too much money to play, even with this beautiful hand. This is a cash game. You get to be selective about what you play, and you don't need to put money in the pot unless it's a really great opportunity to make some money, and this isn't the case. The next hand I pick up is 9-8 offsuit. I'm on the button, and there's one limper under the gun. It folds around to me, and I'm going to bump it up to $15. This is kind of a questionable play, but I do think that with my position and the fact that it's connected, I can get away with this every once in a while. The big blind makes the call, and the under the gun player does make the call as well. If the hand was suited, it would be a lot better. But we're headed to the flop 3 ways with $46 in the pot, and the dealer puts out 4, jack, 5. It's a rainbow board, and when it's checked to me, I'm going to put out a small continuation bet of $20. Both players fold, and I'm scooping a small pot. The next thing I look at is pocket 10s. I'm under the gun, $740 in my stack. I'm going to bump it up, make it $15. The player to my left, an OMC, takes a good long look at his cards. And of course, it's like, you got to look at them one at a time, dude. You got to slowly look at your cards. Like you're Charlie dreaming of going to the chocolate factory, peeling up the corner of a candy bar like you're looking for a golden ticket. And he goes ahead and he min raises me to $30. He only started the hand with $90, and this is one of those moves that we all kind of know what it means. I wonder what you have under that chip there. Well, I think we all know what he has, but unfortunately, when it folds around to me, I just can't fold for $15. I really want to fold, but I say to myself, well, maybe I'll hit a 10 on the flop and take the other $60. It's really not worth it. The implied odds aren't there. The flop comes ace 4 8. And when I check to him, he puts all of his chips in the pot. Probably not the best move, seeing that he has trip aces, most likely. Maybe ace king, but that's going to be the last hand of the day. I rack up my chips and I head to the cage. It feels great booking a win after such a long break. It's always good not to overdo it. We're in for 300, out for 670 for a profit of $370. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Kato out.